are going back in time today. I'm so excited. As many of you know, my husband is a historical reenactor, so all things history always get me excited. We're going to start the show talking about our fabulous steam engine and the team behind that and get some insight. We're going to talk really quickly about a really cool program that's happening at the school around helping with financial literacy amongst our students. And of course, as always, we're going to catch up with Mayor Scott Galvin, and we got tons and tons of stuff to talk about around budgets and things happening across the city. So first up, without any further delay, welcome Alex and Phil.
Greetings.
I'm so excited to have you here. As I mentioned, I'm such a buff of history, and just looking behind you at all the equipment and amazing things that are happening right there. Tell us a little bit about what got us started getting this engine up and running again.
So to make a long story very, very short, we heard through some channels that you guys had an original steam engine in your water department that used to force all of the drinking water and hydrant water, et cetera, to Woburn. And I got in contact kind of informally with an operator in the water department who let us look at it. And it was much more amazing than I thought it would be, almost completely undisturbed. I left a little note saying that if anyone ever wanted to make it work, we could do that, and we would volunteer our time and resources to do so. City engineer Jay Corey really wanted to do it, and he pushed real hard for a couple of years to get us permission to do so. He succeeded in 2018, and then Mr. Len Burnham down the DPW, super duper hard worker, basically brought us everything we needed that we couldn't get. And then in about 5 months' time, we had it ready to run.
Just want to make a big thank you to all the DPW guys for helping us get this running. Besides Jay and Len,
really everybody.
They would get us supplies and everything we needed, from pipe fittings to just trash bags and tables. And Scott too, obviously.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Happened. Perfect storm of great people. It wouldn't have happened without anybody involved.
That's the big thing. It really, really wouldn't have without everything being just the way it is right now.
We are so lucky that everything came together like that. It's one of the things we love about our city is people come together and celebrate our history and celebrate our togetherness and celebrate our community. And this is one way for us to do that. We have a really rich history around Horn Pond, and it's kind of a little gem in our city, and not a little gem, a big gem. And glad to have this. Now, tell me what your backgrounds. How did you, what are your backgrounds that this is something you would even think about and get involved in?
We are both avid steam people. We've been working on steam engines a lot like this one since we were kids in various places in the Northeast.
He and I have been quite truly around the world twice working on these things, from Britain to Eastern Europe all the way to India, strangely enough.
And these days we're both licensed stationary engineers. We do the modern equivalent of this with steam boilers and turbines. And this is
our full-time job as well as the recreational stuff.
Right.
Well, we're really fortunate to have your skills and expertise and all with you, because that brings it right home to us. So we get to sort of travel back in time with you. I know that we had on Conservation Day, it was open and started again, which was super exciting for us. You're going to start it up for us as well now. But also as a bonus, people can come still visit. You still have a few more sessions where people can come check it out in person.
Yeah, weekends where people can come visit and see this engine.
May 13th and 14th. As well as May 20th and 21st.
I love it. And what are the hours that they can come by?
9 to 4.
9 to 4. Fantastic. I love it. Were there any surprises? Alec, I'll just ask you this question, then Phil, I got another question for you. Any surprises during this process that sort of caught you off guard or you weren't expecting in some way?
Only one, and that was how weirdly perfect this thing was. Usually when we undertake an engine project, there are lots of things wrong with it, or little things that jump out that, you would say, oh, well, darn it, that really shouldn't be like this, or weren't expecting that. But this one, the surprise was that there were no surprises, and a couple of the old fellows who used to work in this office, who never saw it run, but who protected it and polished it and looked after it, kept it clean, came by. And so we thank them and the structures that made them able to do that, because this thing was actively protected. Apparently a little too well. Mr. Mayor, I guess, didn't know it was here until we were working on it.
Well, these are happy surprises that that you helped us uncover, and I'm really grateful. Phil, when you look at all the projects that you've done, you've had, I'm sure, all kinds of different kinds of engines to work on and things. From your perspective, what's special about this place that we should be particularly proud of?
The fact that it's so complete and untouched and in such good condition, and the fact that it's running now.
The right way.
The fact that it was running almost like how it was in its heyday, but that this is something special. It's also worth noting that this is the only waterworks steam engine that is running in the country currently.
Yeah, in situ, as it should be.
Oh, this just made my day. That's amazing to hear. Another moment of pride for us. Before I have you turn it on in just a second, Alex, for those folks who might want to visit, if you're in the main parking lot of Horn Pond, how do you get to the museum?
So you'll have to meet us at the gate. There's this little gate that connects the two lots together. Show up at the gate. We'll always be looking out for you because right now we haven't gotten like all the way to museum yet. So we can't just leave the gate open all the time. But if we see you there, we'll let you in.
I love it. Well, Woburnites are not shy, so we will let our presence be known. I have no doubt. If you want to if you want to start her up, we'll take a quick peek and give everybody a sneak peek of what they can see in person.
Yes, she's warm. The oilers are going. Go ahead. All clear. Yes.
She's a thing of beauty. Look at that.
All the way. And the bypass. Yes, and the bypass.
So for those of you who are watching, I'm always in awe of any mechanical things because I have no mechanical bones in my body at all. I have no skills in that area. But to really think about this now, Alex, remind us, how old is this engine?
1908. So 115 years old.
That is incredible.
It stands from the base plate to the top of the cylinders all the way up there, 3.5 stories. It's actually quite a small one. This one here that used to be in Stoneham was 6 stories and it pumped 4 times the water.
But ours is running, so we're
yes. The ones in Stoneham were destroyed a long time ago. So
well, thank you both for joining us so much. We're so grateful. And for those of you who are watching, definitely take the time to go check it out in person. It's amazing. Thank you for helping bring this history back to life for us.
Good job, guys.
Thank you for allowing us to do so.
Excellent. And next up, Paige Crowley, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, Paige, I'm so glad you're here. You're the math and business curriculum coordinator at our schools. I think middle school, is that correct?
It's 6 through 12, so middle schools and the high school.
Fantastic. And you are here to talk about really cool financial literacy program I didn't even know existed. And so I'm excited to learn about the Credit for Life program. Tell us about it.
Yes, I'm really excited about it. So on June 8th, we will be hosting the Credit for Life Fair at the Woburn High School Gymnasium for the entire junior class. And so half the class will come to the gym in the morning, and then half the class will come there an hour and a half each. And it's a budgeting fair. So prior to the fair, every student takes math at the high school. So they will all be taught Finances 101 from their math teacher. And then they will sign up for an online profile where they're told they're 25 years old. And they get to pick a career, research the career a little bit, a budget. And then at the fair, they actually go around from table to table. There'll be about 10 tables, and they'll speak with community members who have volunteered to work at the fair to talk about different life experiences. So from going to college or going into the trades, taking out a loan, how to pay for that, transportation, whether you want to buy a car, lease a car, maybe you live in the city and take the commuter rail, to things. There's a station called Fun, and they'll get to talk about traveling and budgeting for vacation and things like that. And then we're even going to have a table called Learn How to Tie a Tie. So students that don't know how to tie a tie will learn at that table. I've partnered with Rockland Trust Bank, so they've been helping me through this. And I first learned of it from the math director at Braintree High School, because Braintree does this every year. So I volunteered at their fair in March, and it was an unbelievable experience. And for the volunteers, it's really fun. You get to just talk about your life experiences and some of the mistakes you've made with money. And, so the students really will come away with just finances 101. And hopefully we can prevent them from making some of the mistakes we made.
I think that's such a great program. And I love that you've took an idea from another school and brought that to us. Thank you so much for doing that. For those students who are not in the junior class, is there any information that is shareable? It's just an in-school curriculum at this point, correct?
Yeah, right now it's just in school. And my hope is that every single kid will graduate from Woburn Memorial High School with this financial background, because every junior will be required to attend the fair. So hopefully this will become an annual thing.
Well, this is such a fun way to integrate curriculum with real life and practice all of those things. Thank you so much for telling us about it, Paige. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Excellent. Next up, Mayor Scott Galvin.
Samantha, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Great, how you feeling?
I'm okay. I'm all right. I did learn a lesson, I'm not gonna lie, that I should not sit in the sun. And
Neither should I.
Hydrated much easier than I normally do, but easy lesson learned. And I have a big thing of water next to me to drink,
Yeah,
but
stay
overall I'm doing well.
hydrated.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm
Right.
doing really well. I appreciate it. You know what? I'll just say this. We have amazing healthcare right in our community between Leahy and Winchester Hospital. I feel very blessed that if I have to go through significant treatments, that I can do this around the corner from home.
Good.
That makes a big difference. So grateful for that. We had a big conservation day. Lots of exciting things happened across the city and stuff. Any feedback that you've gotten you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, it was a busy day. A lot of volunteers were out, and the list of people to thank is really long, but it was a great day down at Hunt Pond. I know the veterans agent Bob Davis has a great working relationship with Home Depot, and they came in and did a great job on the Keith Callahan Memorial. They really fixed that up nice. The Lions Club, as usual, does a great job on Lions Park. They have an army of volunteers, and they do a really great job on the backside of the pond, and then they offer a great lunch to all the volunteers. So their kudos go out to them. And then we also, as Alex and Phil told you, we had the steam engine open all day, and to supplement that, we're working with Recreation, Rory and Brian. We arranged with our kayak company to offer free kayaks for the day. And it was really a busy day down there. We had some music with a local talent, Buddy Fanjoy, who entertained people, and also the Kiwanis helped out with the Lord Hobo Beer Tent, which was very successful. And they were all, a lot of people, the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, they were all doing this stuff. Jim Joyce and his group, the Friends of Hunt Pond, were down there with, doing their stuff. And they really stepped it up in a short period of time, and been a group that I don't think we can do without. They're amazing, the work they do. So yeah, all in all, it was Saturday was a great day, and Sunday we had the Boys Club Kicking for Kids road race, which brought a big crowd, and that's why my face is red. But it was a nice day.
Yeah, it was beautiful weather too. Like, we don't always have that on days like that, but it was just a perfect weekend.
Yeah,
I
a
love it.
good weekend. Nice to have some fun events again, and good weather. And I know a lot of people are doing yard work, maybe getting their pools open, but it was starting to swing into that season, so it's a good time of year.
Yeah, and with lots of yard sales and all kinds of things. So
That's right. Yeah, I almost forgot to mention the
Right.
citywide yard sale. That was very active.
yeah, great way to kick off the spring season. Obviously we're going to talk about budgeting and stuff,
Yep.
but before we dive into that, I had somebody ask me for an update on the old Wyman School property. And I think last we spoke, we didn't know what was planned there other than it's some storage and some offices, but I wanted to
Yeah.
confirm that with you.
Right now, it's still under the control of the schools, and when the school decides that they don't need it, or they'll release it to the city. So we've been working with them, and they're still, I think they're still analyzing and looking at their the long needs study that they had done to see how that may or may not fit into any of the plans that they have. So once they make a decision on that, I'm guessing they'll turn it back to the city, and then we'll make a decision on probably putting it out to bid for some type of use, whether it be condos or something like that.
Yeah, it'd be an amazing location for things like, really affordable housing or community center or things. I know there's a million things you can think of, and we're nowhere near thinking of that yet,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, we're not, yeah, you're right. There'll be, obviously a lot of input from the alderman, the ward alderman and neighbors about what they'd like to see. But I think that's, it's a beautiful old building, which I'm sure we can do some good things with.
All right, so let's dig in. I want to talk about budgeting, and I just want to make sure this has been a pretty intense process, in particular around the schools, but across the city in general. And there's a lot of diligence and work that happens. One of the things that I know I've had a lot of questions come into me about, and there's some confusion around, is around the school budget. There were people have talked about cuts. In fact, the budget, in whatever form it comes, will definitely be an increase year over year. The question is that there are some mandated costs that have gone up year over year that have put the team in a position where you've asked them to cut off of the request that they made. Is that an accurate description of it?
I wouldn't say it's, there are definitely some contractual costs that need to be covered. There are some positions that need to be covered. So I would say there's some truth, but I think one of the things that, we'll start with, Samantha, is we'll start with the budget year we're finishing. So the budget year that we're finishing is more than sufficiently funded. It's been more than sufficiently funded. In fact, we anticipate there'll be a small turn back for the school budget at the end of this year, which means, the budget was a good budget. Going into FY24, it's a significant increase over last year in terms of funding. We're talking about $7 million in new funding. And there's $7 million more, which is like, I don't want to say, when people start saying it's not enough money, it's like the most money that I think we've ever, the largest increase that we've ever approved. And when you look at 7 million over last year, it's almost about 9.5%. And that doesn't even take into consideration that we are also funding additional capital requests that were in the budget, which generally they don't do, but those are part of the monies that we took out. So it's a major investment in the schools. It's been a continuation of the major investments we've made in the schools. And, we have information that, goes back over 10 years, and the average increase that the city has done on a year-to-year basis has been in excess of 4%, which is, when you look around communities around us, it's a very, it's a good increase, over 4%. And I think, Samantha, that when we look at the budget, when the schools are very important. They're very important. That's why we're making this investment in the schools. And when you make that large an investment in the schools, other departments do suffer, because you only have so much money that you can raise during a year. We get our revenue from 3 sources, and the revenue sources are the property tax, which is tax levy, local aid, that's generally referred to as the cherry sheet, and then our local receipts, which are like hotel, motel tax, excise, and those others. And the one thing I can say is that is a somewhat of a good thing. But the local receipts, we're getting back to where we were with COVID, when COVID decimated us and the funds went way down. So we're slowly getting back to that in ways of hotel, motel, and excise. So we have somewhat recovered, but now on the flip side with the receipts, everybody knows there's a slowdown coming. We're watching our building permits, and unfortunately they're, going into next year, we don't expect them to be as robust as they've been in the past. So there's a little bit of an offset. We do need to be concerned going forward about the effects of a recession, the effects of inflation, which we hope are starting to taper, but they're still high, and also the Fed's policy with tightening interest rates. Those are going to have an impact on everything we do. So then getting back to the next step up on the ladder is our local receipts, our cherry sheet revenues. And when you look at them, year over year, the net increase is pretty, it's not great for the city. Like our receipts are going up, but our assessments are going down. So the net increase is about $500,000, which, some other cities and towns are
What do you mean our assessments are going down? The assessments of what?
on the cherry sheet. You have a revenue section and then the assessment section. So one hand gives, the other hand takes,
Okay.
and you get a net of about 500,000. The Chapter 70 portion of the local aid, the Chapter 70 portion is the educational part. That's going up 1 million. But on the assessment side, we have the charter schools, which are becoming more vogue, and also school sending. That takes about $500,000 away from us. So it's a little discouraging, those, the local aid. So it's not as robust as we'd like it to be. There is a push on to try to get more local aid. I don't know how lucky we're going to be, but we'll be talking about that at one of my the MMA meeting I'm involved in tomorrow. And then the biggest part of our revenue, which is well in excess of 75%, maybe more, is the tax levy. And the tax levy, Samantha, is based on your prior year. You add on 2.5% of that, which in this case is about $4 million, and then new growth. Right now we're being a little conservative because it's like I said, things are slowing down a little bit. We've had really good new growth over the years, but we're looking at about 3 million. So, you add them all up. If we're bringing in 8 million in new revenue, that we try to balance the budget off that way, and that's where we're in, as I say, not a shortfall, but we have a good amount of money. And as I've already told you, the budget for the schools is seeing an increase in funding of $7 million. So
here's the challenge we're in, right? And I know you know this, right? You know this intimately, which is the cost for some significant portions of the school budget, right? Like out of district placement, I think I heard it was up 14%.
Yep.
And we had appropriate, significant wage increases and things for staff. And we have a projected increase in the need for special ed services, which means we have legally mandated roles that have to fill to do that. How are you, when you are calculating and when you're looking at, look, the 7 million is a lot more than we normally do. There's no question about that. How do you reconcile this sort of maybe unusually large spike in additional sort of mandated costs against where we're at? Like, how are you figuring out what that right balance should be?
Well, we've had discussions with the school department. I've met with Matt Crowley, with Maureen Ryan, with Bob Elkanata. Those are all the heads of the school, and we talk about those things. And one of the, when we say 7 million in increased funding, one of the things we're doing, which I hope I don't regret it someday, is that we're going to say, look at what, because understanding that those out of district costs are so high, we're going to take 2 million of $1.8 million. We're going to take off and take that out of the budget and fund it with a stabilization type appropriation. So it's giving them more capacity, but we're still covering it, hoping that some of those out of district costs are less than what they're projecting them to be. So it's a risk we're taking, and it's something that gives this budget a lot of breathing room. That's why I say it's a combination that we're doing that gets the funding up over 9.5%. And we've talked at length about special ed and making sure that there are, the mandated positions are covered, and that's what it is. And the other thing, Samantha, that I know I've spoken a number of times, and it's going to start. We're kicking the can down the road with our ESSA funds. The ESSA funds are well intentioned by the federal government, but they're supposed to be funding one-time expenses, or those expenses that when the money goes, they're gone. And I don't see it. I don't. Like last year we had 1.3 in ESSER. Next year we're adding another 400 on top of that. And, you know, a lot of it is for positions to help. I know they're there to help, but we've got issues coming, and you know, the money that we're putting forward now, it's a major investment, and it's unfortunately it's not being looked at that way, and that's it's unfortunate, because that is, like I said, big money.
So let's talk about reserves, because this is a question that comes up
Sure.
all the time, right? People say, hey, you know, I understand the math. We have a limitation, you know, some comes in, some goes out. We've got to balance that. But, you know, Woburn's rich. We got millions and millions of dollars sitting in reserve. I'm not projecting my personal opinion.
Yeah.
You know, this is sort of the questions that come in. I want to talk about what reserves are really designed for, and how they're calculated, and what they are. So tell us how you view them and how we have set them up as a city.
Yeah, reserves are, there's 3 buckets of reserves that we have. We've got the free cash, which is about 39 million. We've got stabilization, which is about 14 million. And then we have an overlay reserve, which is about maybe 7 million, thereabouts. Now, those funds are, for different purposes, but basically free cash and the stabilization we've set up for one-time expenses, not recurring. And that's the important distinction. And rating agencies like Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and even the DOR, it's strongly recommended that you have a healthy reserve policy, and the reserves are there to again, be used for emergencies or one-time expenses that may come up. Now, we on an annual basis, we have a capital budget of about 4 million, and we fund that through free cash for stabilization, and that's we call it pay-as-you-go capital. So we use that for, for instance, vehicles for the DPW, the police, maybe equipment for the fire department, and again for the school. So we use that on a regular basis, but we like to keep that balance that we have, and it's really helped us. It's been the main force in allowing us to be awarded a AAA rating from Standard & Poor's, which is very important. And again, it's one of those things that the AAA rating gives you community status and standing when you go out to bond. You're looked at more favorably, and it's akin to a credit rating. Like a family's credit rating. Would you rather have an 800 or a 500? And
let me ask you a follow-up question about that. So are the reserve funds that are there, is there anything in our fiscal 24 budget that feeds the reserves, or is that now just an interest-bearing reserves that do we need to add anything to it, or are we just maintaining it at this point?
No, we maintain it, and the way we increase the free cash, Samantha, is that we have the revenues that we get. Well, we estimate we start with our budget. We estimate our revenues. So those 3 sources I told you,
yeah.
And then we also have a budget. And if the revenues exceed the budget expenditures at the end of the year, that's how you increase your free cash. In years past, we've been very conservative with estimating our receipts, and that's helped us generate more free cash. As I said, this year we've got to the point where we're very almost right, not spot on, but once in a while you'll have a source of revenue at the local receipts that you might not have expected that at the beginning of the year, and that's helped us again bring in more receipts, and that's helped us increase our free cash. But it's an important it's something that, again, I get to this when the agencies, the bond rating agencies, look at you, they like to see you, your fund balances going up, not going down, and not being replenished. So that's one of the things we do. And the bottom line is you just do not, you don't use reserves as free cash or stabilization for ongoing expenses like budget expenses, because if you do, you're going to have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right. If you have, once you use it once, and it's gone, there has to be that revenue. That's like what I'm talking about, the ESSA funds. I'm really concerned about when the ESSA is gone, what revenue is going to be there to replace it? Or are you going to have to get rid of those positions? And that's going to cause major heartburn next year.
So, and, and I know that you're not dictating how the school spends the money. You've said this is an amount of money, and the schools are making decisions with lots of input. And one of the things that I know has been raised as a concern is that the bar appeared to move. They thought they had a number, and then the public statement was that you had requested to cut that further. Do you want to talk a little bit about the process you've been going through and how those communications are happening and where we're actually at right now?
No, because there's been no, that's incorrect. There's been no change. It's like this budget's an ongoing process between my office and the superintendent, and they're ongoing.
Okay. And I know that the school committee is hosting a public hearing. I think it's on Wednesday. I may be misspeaking on the date, but I think it's Wednesday. Is that something that you'll be attending?
Yes.
Okay, great. So one of the things that has, I think a lot of people have asked about and are trying to get creative, right? You've already talked about some ways the city's already getting creative with how we fund the $7 million and other things across the city. Are there other creative things that we can do across the city to help feed the schools and support the schools? This is a silly example. It's not a meaningful one, which is why I'm using it, because it's not meaningful. But we have a grant for the opiate awareness program. Could that resource be used to support some mental health programming in the schools, as an example, since we've had one of the budget proposals has some social work cut as an example in the schools to help, meet these numbers? Are there conversations like that happening across the city that we can leverage or just know about?
There have not, Samantha. There haven't been any, but it's a good suggestion. We'd certainly listen, but remember what I told you is that we're using those funds to expand and create, not expand, but expand on the position that was created in City Hall for, an opioid director / mental health. So we are, I'm not saying no, but I don't think the funds there are significant enough to, but again,
that's a silly example, and
no, it's
and
not.
that's,
It's a good,
but
good suggestion.
as a like how creative can we get in closing that gap?
Yeah.
So we've talked about a limitation of obviously it's a budget like anybody's budget. There is a certain amount of cash that exists. You've shared your perspective on sort of the reserves and what's happening there, and how we handle those. There's an opportunity to potentially raise revenue. I'm not suggesting we do that, but right, one of the ways that you put more money towards schools or anything else across the city is to say that we're going to increase revenue coming in. So things like preschool programs, right? I'm not suggesting even thinking about things like raising property taxes, but are there other revenue avenues that could be considered to help offset, if not in this fiscal year, as we look forward? Never does budgeting go backwards, right?
Yeah.
It never seems that we're going to be able in a position to spend less. If it's $7 million this year or $8 million this year, maybe 9 or 10 next year.
Yeah. So I think there are ways, but let's start with you. You made an important statement about taxes. So one thing that the tax levy, like that's not free. Everybody knows that. In years past, we haven't used all of our tax levy. This year, we're going to use all of our tax levy. That's an increase over last year. And that when you do that, the taxes, they're there to be taxed, but people do need to understand that when we use all of our tax levy and all of our new growth for that year, that's a hit on the taxpayer. So it's not a, and I know people know it's not free, but you use all that tax levy, your taxes are gonna, you're gonna feel it. People are going to feel it. And in this year, like we said, I'm looking at the school budget. It's like that's why I'm telling people we're making a major investment, and we're going right up to what we're generating this year in revenue. So it is big, and some of the other departments, are taking a, a hit on some of the things that they're looking for, and it's, not, when I say hit, they're not taking major hits. I mean, we're doing things in the police department this year. We've done some great things with the fire department where, we've added manpower there, and, we've taken on the debt for the $23 million fire station. So we continue to make major investments in the city, and they're kind of measured and strategic investments that are planned. I'm not forgetting your question about generating revenue, but the other thing that everybody does need to know is we have the new Voc coming online, and that's an important investment for our kids, but we haven't started to feel that hit, and that's going to be coming every year. Our assessment's going to increase because they're building a new school, and original estimates were an additional $1 million for the capital. That's coming. So we have a lot of different things down the road, and I know when you get hit with something like this, everybody focuses on the main, just what's in front of them, and forgets we're trying to plan for years down the road too.
And I think that's the tricky challenge for us, right? So I know we're looking at capital plans for our school system, right? We
Right.
have, which is where those reserves, I imagine, some of that sort of debt funding comes from to pay for that. We know we have some buildings that need to be redone or repaired. I don't know what the outcome of that study fully was yet, but we know there's work, right? There's infrastructure that needs to happen. We know there's big water infrastructure that needs to happen. There's, sort of things that are across the city. I think it's always hard for all of us, myself included, to sort of say, we're spending millions of dollars on, capital infrastructure, and we're having to lay off admin staff that support students every day. I understand why that feels wrong to people, right? That feels challenging. So, I guess more than anything, just when you're looking at this number and you're looking at our competitiveness as a city and our attractiveness to people coming in and people wanting to stay here, how do you find the right place to find balance across all of the demands that are sitting in that spreadsheet that you've got to find the math to work?
Well, it's a good question. I think we've been doing that for years now, and that's, what do we do to make the city attractive? We made a significant investment in our library. We've made significant investments in new schools. There's been two new elementary schools built since I've been mayor. We build new parks. We invest in recreation. It's and again, the school funding, like I said, when you look at the school funding over the years, we've done I think a very, very good job of giving them a budget that's helped them, move the school department ahead. I mean, we are a diverse community, which is a good thing, but the diversity does bring on, costs in all aspects of city government, and schools are definitely one of the bigger ones. So we get it. I think we've become a very attractive city for people to come and live, and we continue to do that. And when you have, again, when you have a budget like this, that it's going up, funding is going up, over $7 million over last year, and it's a 9.5% increase. We're also committing to more capital, and you mentioned it, Samantha. We've got the plan that hasn't been unveiled yet. I'm sure there's going to be some areas that they'll be looking to have some free cash or stabilization. I'm not saying we're committing to that, but when it's unveiled, there may be a need to use some of those reserves. There'll definitely be a need to take on some debt if there's projects that we can that are acceptable to everybody. So, we've made a lot of investments, and those costs for those new schools, those are coming out of the budget. Insurance costs, those come out of the city side of the budget. And when you're adding new employees, that the insurance costs don't go down, they go up. So you have that. Pension costs go up when you have more employees. We're doing what we have to do.
Completely unrelated to schools and budgeting. I read an article just a couple of days ago. I can't remember where it was, but around solar panels going up in old wastewater sites and sort of powering, which seemed like a really cool program. And I understand that power is sort of geared towards more affordable power sources. It wasn't clear to me if that land it's in Woburn, but is that private land or public land?
We talking up at the end of Commerce Way?
Yeah.
That's private land.
Okay. All right, so I was just gonna ask if there was anything that we could or were doing to make sure that's directed in part towards Woburn residents, but it's private land. I'm not sure if there is anything.
Yeah, they when they come in, they make an agreement, and they approached us to see if we want to take some of it off, but it reduces our capacity to do our own solar. But you know, I don't know if you've seen the landfill, but we up in North Woburn, that's, you know, we lease that and we generate we have a power purchase agreement. It's really not a lease, but a power purchase. We generate a significant amount of money from that, you know, upwards to $1 million a year. And we've got solar on 4 or 5 schools. We're adding it to the fire station, and you know, we've got a study out as well to see if we can put some in the library and a couple other schools. And so we're moving, and solar is definitely the way of the future. So, you know.
Awesome. Thank you for that update. I really appreciate your time today. And Woburn, there's a lot of complexity that goes into budgeting and schools and all departments across the city. I encourage people to continue to stay involved and to go to the meetings and listen to the details and share their voices and opinions. I know Scott's office is available and is going to be joining the committee meeting that's coming up. As always, Woburn, please continue to take good care of each other.